Hello and welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty and I can't tell you how glad I am to be joined by my good friend and former three-time world title challenger, Mike El Ciclone Ayala. How's it going, Jim?
All right, sir. Happy to be on and to be on your show, and good to see you again.
Now, before we start, Mike, and commence with the main business of the afternoon stroke evening over here, I've got to apologise for the absence of Silk right now, and I've got to take the rep for it too, because I told him accidentally it was 5 p.m. EST today when I meant 4 p.m. EST. Thing that slightly threw me off is because it's 3 p.m. where you are, which is called CST, right, Mike?
It's Central Standard Time. It's 3 p.m. right,
So
Silk is Eastern, and you're English. It's 6 hours ahead.
yeah, exactly that. So the reason why the Silk isn't here, I've communicated with him, and I hope he's going to join us as soon as possible. But I didn't want to keep Mike waiting. Here comes the Silk now. There we go. Here he comes. 1 second. Add him to that stage. Here we go.
There he
Mr.
is.
Olajide, just talking about you. Sorry, sir. I got a little confused.
Thank you. Turning yourself.
Yeah, get your audio sorted out, please, sir. We want to hear your dulcet tones. You see, he's frozen there, Mike. He's just frozen. Are you cool, Silk?
Yeah, he's there.
You need to enable your microphone, Mr. Silk. Enable your microphone, please. So this is on him. I'll take the blame for him being late. That was my fault, but this is his fault. Let's be
I
clear
gotta
on that.
get.
Hey, okay.
You're good. That's the Elijah Day that I know and love. I can hear him. He's not mute. You're going to have to sign or something like that,
Yeah,
Michael,
no.
you
I
haven't
had
missed anything.
another program on. I had
Yeah.
something else was talking. I couldn't hear you guys.
You haven't missed a damn thing because we only just started. Don't worry about the introduction bit. We've surpassed that. People know who you are. The world knows who you are. I want to ask Mike first. Let's give Mike an opportunity to speak first. The Silk has got one over on me again, Mike, because I thought Sonny Edwards, I had a lot of faith in. I was a bit probably too emotionally attached to him because I've known him since he was a young amateur. I thought he was going to step up and go to the next level, and it would be a defining night for him last night. It was the other way around, and it was a defining night for Jesse Bam Rodriguez. I was under no illusion to how good Rodriguez was, but I guess I didn't think he was quite that good. You're from San Antonio yourself, and I know you've been aware of him for a while. How did you assess the performance?
Oh wow! I had followed, and I was the same way with you. I heard a lot about Sonny Edwards, and I thought it was going to be a great fight, and it was a great fight until he got caught. See, boxing, you got to understand, is it's like a chess game. Like when you're playing chess or whatever. You're gonna have difficulty, but once Bam hit him, and he hurt him, and that's when the class came through, and that's when legends are made. When two great fighters fight, one will rise and one will, but Sonny Edwards, my hats off to him for gameness. Where he got fought, he got hurt, got caught, and he tried, but he was dead game. But Bam Rodriguez, a star has risen. He looked very good, very impressive. It was a great fight.
Mr. Silk.
Okay, so first of all, before we go any further, Ben, I feel there has to be a deeper acknowledgement of especially the last two fights which I've called. Last night I said it was going to be a late round stoppage, and the fight before that I said
No, you didn't. Last night you didn't say late round stoppage. This last night you didn't. You said on points because I said, "What if he stops him? Are you still right?" You went, "Yeah, I'm more right than you." So don't come with that. You did not say late stoppage.
And then don't also forget the fight before that I called Fury getting knocked down but still winning.
Are we still talking about that, Silk? Are we, Mike,
Hey, listen,
Ayala,
it's
I
just
told you how.
it's,
I told you how mine and his relationship was
I'm
degenerated.
I'm pretty much his Nostradamus. I'm pretty much Nostradamus.
Silk, you can have your flowers, okay? You can have your flowers. Don't push it too
then
far
you have
because
to
you
give
know.
them to me. You have to give it to me. You can't just like and then you went on to something else. I barely get an introduction, nothing, and then all of a sudden you just like
You feeling
actually
undervalued?
philosophical about something else. I feel I deserve more than that.
Okay, let me take it from the top. We've got a running scoreboard, okay, Mike. We predict fights, and we have a running scoreboard between myself, Michael, and Gary Stretch, our other co-host. Um, Now, at the minute, I have 7 predictions. I am 4 and 3. I've got 4 right and 3 wrong. The Silk is absolutely flying. Out of 6 predictions he's made on the show, he's gotten 5 right and 1 wrong. And to be fair to him, the one that he got wrong, he was actually messing around by his own admission. He went out on a limb for fun, and he picked Charlo over Canelo. I don't think he fully believed it. He just wanted to play devil's advocate. So really, he could be 6-0 right now. I have a feeling he'll end up 27-5 at some point, but we shall see. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Okay, now thank you. I appreciate that acknowledgement. This fight last night, I mean, yes, it was a great fight. Both of them have great heart, both of them have great ability or excellent ability. This is the classic example that I wrote about my system by Silk Meanderings. Being able to box and being able to fight are 2 different things.
Yes.
They're not one and the same, right? Boxing is kind of like superficial. You can technically execute things the way you're supposed to or the way your trainer wants you to. But Mike, as you know, like when you get into a fight, it's about your instincts. It's about your emotions. It's about understanding what this guy's coming back at you at, and instinctually you're able to reflex and stop his roll. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. That's not where Edwards was at his strongest. He just wasn't. You know what I mean? And that was quite unfortunate because, I mean, he's absolutely likable. I love his energy. I love his fight style. You know what I mean? All the rest of that kind of stuff. But there are a number of things that we should get into actually on Edwards, which I think prevented him from really winning the fight. And one of them was, as talented as he is, Edwards people don't know what they have in Sonny. I don't believe so. I don't think they know how he works. Like how he could use himself best.
It's interesting you say that because his coach, Grant Smith, has been with him a few years and he's gotten a lot of plaudits for what he's done with Sonny and the relationship they have together. Yeah. And some people said he's a very underrated trainer because he's not an ego guy and he doesn't court the limelight like some coaches do now.
Yeah. There's a lot of
guys. It's interesting what you say.
But what I'm saying is they can't program the kid to his ability. Like I see him as having a lot of ability, but I'm not sure he's getting the right programming. And they pretty much allow him to do, like, to me, on the outside looking in, he looks like a guy that does what he wants the way he wants to do it. I don't think his trainer tells him, listen, drop your hands and shake your face in front of him and slip over to the side. And I don't think his trainer tells him to do that.
What I think, if I can put my 2 cents in,
please.
I think that Edwards management underestimated Rodriguez. I thought they were going to come in and they were going to, instead of boxing, trying to feel the fight, they went right in and tried to mix it up with Bam. And once Bam caught him and hurt him, I think it was a mistake when they tried to. I guess try to bully Rodriguez, try to get him, and Rodriguez that was their plan: fight inside, counter. And Rodriguez is a good boxer. He can counter punch, feint, you know what I mean, but he can hit. That's why they call him Bam. You know what I mean? Bam, he has power. And but I think the Edwards management team underestimated Bam. I think.
Yeah, well,
I could be wrong.
Some people are saying he fought the wrong fight, Michael and Mike. Yeah. But I've got two schools of thought on that because have you ever boxed with someone? I want to ask you this, Michael, because I think Michael was a good boxer as well, good counter puncher, but I see you more as a mover. So can I ask you, did you ever box with somebody that you might have thought that you were going to dance and move on, but you realized because they were good at certain things that you couldn't run from them because you were actually giving them a more momentum and you felt you had to stay there with them a little bit rather than give too much ground. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there are certain parts of that ring true. But it's almost like it's that sways within the 3 minutes. It's like there's times when you can, and there's times when you can't. There are times when you have to really plant yourself and make this guy feel you, and there are times when you shouldn't be doing that. And those are all in the moments of, that all happens within 3 minutes. Is that like Howard Cosell would say, shifting tides ebb and flow? That's what
Yeah.
happens in boxing. And that's the guys who really know how to fight, know how to go with the flow. They know how to read their opponents and their opponents' intentions, and they need to, and they know their own abilities. They're honest with their own abilities, know what they can do. Now, this kid, to me, Edwards, he isn't a defensive wizard. He has great footwork, but mostly when it doesn't count. Okay, so this is the first time I really watched him his whole fight. Great footwork, beautiful footwork, but when it doesn't count, he's moving when he doesn't really
Have to.
He should be moving when this kid is punching at him. That's the time to move.
Great analysis, Michael. Great analysis. You're right about that. And he wasn't blocking properly either. The black catching shots and counter. You know what I mean? Exactly. That was good.
Do you know what? I think a true defensive master, I've said this before when we've spoke about boxing, obviously, Silk, that it's great. It's one thing having great legs and great reflexes and a little bit of flash about you, a little bit of swagger. But true defensive geniuses for me have got the three levels. They've got the feet, they've got the hands, and they've got their upper body movement from when they're not moving on their toes. And that's why you see a guy like James Toney being a defensive master, because he had all those aspects. Whereas you might have great legs.
And that allowed him to go from middleweight to heavyweight. If he didn't have that head movement, there's absolutely no way he would get to where he was.
And people were saying that Edwards wasn't blocked. The thing that I think might have surprised Edwards to a degree, or was certainly a factor, was that as well as being obviously the vastly more powerful fighter, that Bam could match him for speed, and his jab in particular was catching Sonny. And a few people have said to me, why was Sonny trying to move out the way? Why is he trying to push away from the jab? Why didn't he try parrying the southpaw jab? And blocking it like Mike was suggesting.
He didn't catch it. He didn't parry it. Well, listen, Edwards is a reflex fighter, and he out reflexes a lot of guys, but he didn't fight a reflexes fighter fight, a reflex fighter's fight last night. Yeah, I mean, like Mike was saying, like Mike Ayala was saying, he's like, he was staying there with the guy, and there was no reason to do that. And only like when you're hard headed, you feel like, okay, maybe you've talked so much in the build up, and you actually begin to believe that hype, and then you make that your stance. You fall upon that sword, and that's the worst thing you can do. Sometimes, like as fighters, we convince ourselves the wrong things. You know what I mean? We don't believe
exactly.
We don't believe the strengths of the other guy, and any strength they have, we think we're stronger than them anyway. Especially if you're undefeated.
You know what? I remember Gary Stretch. Gary Stretch is the other guy who's usually on the show, Mike, and he fought Chris Eubank back in the day, 30 odd years ago. In a build-up, right, Michael? Gary did an interview with ITV a few weeks before the fight, and the journalist, whoever interviewed him, rather gently suggested, "Well, he's a rather big puncher, isn't he, Gary?" And Gary just said, full of cockiness and swagger, he just said, he'll have to be. And that was the end of it, And that's the mentality you're alluding to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And technically, I don't think he was getting his body behind his power punches. And if a puncher doesn't respect you, he will disrespect you.
Exactly. Very well said. You got to hit it. You got to have the fighter respect you. You got to hit. And what happened was that Sonny wasn't banging hard enough and fighting the wrong fight, because Sonny Edwards should have made adjustments, started boxing when he felt the power, and he didn't. Instead of, he got hurt. A lot of times when I got hurt, right away my instinct was, because we talked about it with my dad and stuff, you hold on, you hold, you block, you regroup. Once you go, and Sonny didn't do that. He stayed in the mix, got caught again, got hurt, started trying to slug and got caught, and the damage that he did, his eye was already closing, and you know what I mean. It took effect.
If you have his manager's number, because as he's getting his eye taken care of, he'll need to protect it, and I make eye patches.
Oh yeah, do you want me to say that? I'm not sure how that would be construed if I get in touch saying my mate the Silk has offered to make an eye patch for Sonny if he needs to go another way.
Listen, he dresses like he pays attention to his like decor and what he wears. so I could do something exactly customized for his look that he'd like.
I
And
guess you could actually do a fighter-specific service, couldn't you? For since orbital fractures seem to be becoming more popular these days in big fights, that could
you're
be you could
crazy.
make a kill in there.
Orbital fractures, and this is one of the interesting things. I don't know. Listen, when I suffered my orbital fracture, I don't know. They really didn't do a lot of eye surgeries in those days. It was how it was.
Was it over 30 years ago?
Yeah, it was well over
Because
30
that
years.
picture of you on Facebook was surrounded by all the chicks that you posted today. When
I-
you said about 30 years ago, I thought, has he had the eye patch that long? Wow.
Yeah, I've had it since like 1990, 91.
Oh, wow. So,
91. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So it had been a while. I needed it longer before then, but I actually started using it in 91. The eye injury itself happened in 86, and I know that it's absolutely a problem. And I don't know like what happened with my eye. It got the muscles got trapped within the an orbital fracture, and then that means the bottom of the floor has dropped, and the eye drops in the socket. So they need to raise it back up. In my day, when I got it done, they don't get them exactly even the way nature does it. So it was just a little bit like this. So even though it's just microscopic like this in my head, but with your eyes, when you're looking out, the difference is like huge. So
Yeah.
I'm looking, I'll see one of your heads here. Where am I? I'll see one of my heads here, and then I'll see another head of the same guy over there and off to the side. And so when punches are coming at you, like, do you slip the low hook or do you slip the high hook? You know what I mean? It's like, it's something that it's really,
It's confusing.
yes, absolutely discombobulating for a fighter. And especially when fighting is like instinctual, like, I mean, not only instinctual, it's immediate. Like your reflex is so important. And I'm not the kind of guy that absorbs punches. And I don't think Sonny is the kind of guy that is an absorber either. Somebody who's built like Marvin Hagler and Iran Barkley and James Toney. They're thick, you know what I mean? They're built for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, with the size of neck too.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things going on. So I don't know if today they have those kinds of, they can maybe get it back to exactly perfect the way nature intended it. Very few things are that way, but if they can do it with eyes, then good on them. But I tell you, I think that any fighter that suffered an orbital fracture, even as recently as 10, 20 years ago, 30 years from when I suffered it, meaning closer to today, I think there's always going to be a problem as long as they.
We've got an increasing amount of cases, certainly in the UK, in the last couple of years. With Daniel Dubois is said to have suffered an orbital fracture versus Joe Joyce a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders 3 years ago against Canelo, that injury was cited, and now Sonny Edwards last night. You know, so it does seem to be.
What happens with that, Ben? So what happens is the force of the punch is so strong. A lot of times when it happens, that it pushes the eye back and down, and it explodes. It kind of like implodes within your skull, right within your eye socket.
Wow.
And your eye sits on a bunch of very like wet tissue paper, a floor of little bones, little orbital things. And what happens is that blows out, and they call it a bombardier fracture. The eye drops in the socket.
Yeah.
But what the little muscles that move the eye, if they get entrapped within those bones, then it can't move. Like, it'll move a certain distance, then it won't go the rest of the way. And that's what creates the double vision.
Did you see when Sonny was getting some attention? I think it was just stitches to the cut. And he was lying flat on his back in the dressing room on one of those tables. And Bam went in to see him. And there was a lovely little cameo between the two of them where Sonny said, he's talking in his white rude boy accent. I told you about. He's like, "You're a good fighter, man. Yeah, I swear again, good fighter. So much respect for you." Then he said, but what Sonny said that was really nice and classy, he said, "Obviously now you're going to push past me, but I would love to come and do some sparring." He actually said. He didn't say, "I want a rematch." Sometimes a guy gets beat out of sight, which I'm not saying he was, but sometimes a guy does get beat out of sight and he starts screaming rematch. And we're all like, "Are you crazy?" Yeah. Sonny said, "You're obviously going to push on now, and that's right and proper, as I would have done if I'd have won. But I'd love to come and spar you." And I'm sure he means it too.
Yeah,
and,
classy. Very classy and very smart. Very smart.
But yes, thank you. And then Bam said to him, "I've got so much respect for you." And he goes, "And you're funny as fuck too." Bam said to him, because of all the banter all that week in a press conference. So that's nice to see, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
Oh, I think it's good. They're fighters, It's not like there's not a lot of hatred or they got to hype up the fight. There were two complete gentlemen in
Mhm.
there for the fight, and it's good to see. It's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes the fight you didn't have to hype. They're two world champions, and the hype, the fight builds itself up. So I think it was very, very nice.
And the team did a great job of stopping the fight at the right time. It was
Yeah.
never more perfect time because it was only going to get worse.
One
Yes.
person over here of prominence, of some kind of Twitter prominence, accused Sonny of quitting. I mean, they had a bit of a beef. This guy is a former fighter who was British champion, and his notoriety is based on the fact he was a former soccer player who turned professional as a boxer rather late and ended up
Who
winning a
said
British
that?
title. Huh? And he said, "You quit in the biggest fight of your life. You quit like a dog in front of the world." But I can't find any sympathy for that very emotional, biased evaluation. To be
Yeah,
honest,
I don't
That's
think
a
he wants
lie.
to quit. Yeah, he didn't want to quit. This corner pulled the corner off, pulled the plug on the event, and I'm sure he would have went on and he would have went out on his shield.
He would have gone. He would have died he would have died
Yeah,
on the line. Sonny
absolutely.
Edwards' game. That's why
Yeah.
I saw that he was already busted up, and he took it. I'm into that. I'm into the fighter. When I say a fighter quit and stuff like that, this guy did not quit. He was blasted, and he
you
was
guys,
in the fight.
Yeah. And the shot he got
Exactly.
hit with, the shot that he got hit with that dropped him was hellacious. You
Yeah.
can't get hit much harder than that.
no,
It
that
was a
was a
wicked uppercut.
short southpaw. I didn't think it was an uppercut, Mike. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I
It was
thought
a
it was more
straight
like
punch.
that kind of driving
Oh, it
short
was an overhand right. Yeah.
left southpaw.
Left hand. Yeah. Oh, another thing too. I remembered. Thanks for bringing it up. Both of them were southpaws.
Well, no, Sonny is not really a southpaw. He's a switch hitter.
He switches.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he came out southpaw, and I realized because I remember in my fighting days when two southpaws fought, my father used to say, "Well, you got to use a lot of the right hand, a lot of right hooks
Yeah.
when
Silk
two
says you got to
left-handed
lose the
fighters."
left hook.
Yeah, they said they
Yeah,
were ugly fights. They always said when you have two southpaws, it's going to be ugly and this, that, and the other. But that's only if both southpaws don't know how to fight.
Listen, what about Clint
that's not
Jackson
true.
and who was it? Clint Jackson. Back in the day, there were two south. Frank the Animal Fletcher and Clint Jackson had one hell of a fight. They're both
Yeah.
southpaws. That wasn't some, it didn't stink the joint out, did it?
Yeah, no. And
No, it just mess when people say that. Like yesterday's fight was the classic. I thought it was, even though Sonny Edwards didn't win, but it was the classic, and I thought there were two southpaws. And I just think it's just mess when people say it's just like when people fight when right-handers fight left-handers. Some people say move to the right, some move to the left. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we speak about that quite a lot, Mike. Mr. Silk here tends to go against most of the cliches and most of the knee jerks. Everybody says move to your left against a southpaw and throw your straight right hand. He's like, no, move both ways and your left hook is your best bet. I believe that's what he,
Basically, to sum it up, I mean, I just think the predictable, like after a while, southpaws have seen orthodox fighters for a millennia now, and they know that they're always going to come at them with a certain. They know southpaws know that you're going to come at them and try to throw the right hand, and
So that's all
watching-
you're going to do.
Yeah,
Then you better
yeah,
have
and it's
that.
predictable and it's done before. It's tired. It's not creative. And in
Talking of
boxing-
moving to the left or the right,
in boxing, you have to be extremely creative in the ring as well as
Yeah, you got to make changes because exactly like Silk says. You hear the guys plan, and they'll plan like when I fought. When I fought a southpaw, we moved to my right, throw our right hands and stuff like that. But a lot of times it doesn't work that way, and you got to make adjustments, and you got to adjust.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times, and like that for southpaws, and I would catch them with left hooks when they throw the right jab. I
There
would
you
counter
go.
out the left hook. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
Yes.
so you counter and you're using hooks and you're catching the guy and you hurt the southpaw. When I fought Ronnie McGarvey, when Ronnie McGarvey was the number one contender, I caught him with a counter right hand. But then when you fight other southpaws, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
remember we found the report of that in the end, Mike. Because what I remember is you told me on the phone when we started writing the book last year, and you told me about the McGarvey fight just from memory, and I described it in the book from your narrative. Then do you remember we actually found the report when we went through all the treasure trove of Ayala memorabilia you have at the ranch? and we
Right.
found the report, and we actually found you'd misremembered something, and it was actually something else that had happened, and I had to change it. I can't remember the details. I think you might have hit him with a left hook, even though you
Wow,
thought
Mike,
it was a right.
Mike, you fought Mugabe? Wow.
Mugabe, not Mugabe.
Oh, you
No,
said
that Mugabe was a middleweight.
yeah, he said
Yeah.
Mugabe.
He
No,
didn't say that.
McGarvey, Ronnie McGarvey. I sometimes,
Oh,
excuse me, I fought for,
McGarvey. Oh, okay.
yeah,
It's
Ronnie
Ben-
McGarvey, yes, from
Ben Jackson.
Maryland.
It's like
Sorry.
Tommy Hearns, though.
I fought Tommy
amateurs.
Hearns too.
Yeah, as an amateur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hot.
In the Golden Gloves, I believe it was the quarterfinals.
Yes, in the quarterfinal nationals, yes.
And he was as tall as he was when he fought me, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, he was tall. He was tall. What? And you imagine he weighed 119?
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Can you imagine what a freak he must have been at that point?
Yeah.
Real thin.
Yeah.
But him and the Mansour were walking around. They thought they were going to take it. They thought they were going to take, that year.
Yeah.
I bet you would.
Yeah.
But,
What's up?
I mean, that's the
Do you
funny
have
thing.
that-
That
do you have
brings me
that
to my
fight,
next.
Mike?
Go on.
Mike,
Excuse
do you
me?
have that fight? Do you have that fight?
No.
No, I don't have it in tape. I wish I had it. But the way I fought him inside. I was right at his chest, back in the body. I was hurting him to the body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what
Yeah.
happened.
If
And then
he
we
had
know-
that fight, do you not think? I mean, having been round there and spent a week with him last year, do you not think I'd have come home with that tape, that
Oh,
CD, whatever it was,
But
and I'd have shown it to the whole world?
Ben, it may surprise you, but if for just one iota of a minute, I wasn't thinking about you. I'm sorry. I was thinking about Mike Ayala.
But do you not? Come on, if he had that fight, the world would have seen it by now. This is the thing. Obviously, a lot of stuff from that era is lost. I mean, how much would you kill to see that fight? Mike Ayala.
Forget it. I mean, there's so much footage from the 80s and 70s that we don't see, and it's mind-boggling.
We're lucky that we've got Hearns versus Pryor in the amateurs. We've got that on tape.
Yeah.
But you know what? It kind of loses its mystique. Once you've watched it 10 times, you almost prefer the situation when you hadn't seen it and then you watched it the first time. Do you know what I mean?
That's human nature, though, right? That's
Yes.
just human nature. It's like once you've seen it, you can normalize it. And once you've normalized it, you can forget it.
In any case, my next point, Mike, because there is an argument that you were the most successful amateur fighter ever in the history of San Antonio boxing. Now, your friend Andy Pastran, who said to me before the fight, he said, Bam will stop him. He'll make him quit. And I said, just remember you said that in 36 hours' time. So obviously he ended up looking good. But what I saw he posted on Facebook today that he believes that Bam Rodriguez will be, either is already or will be the greatest fighter in San Antonio history. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree fully. He had reached stardom. He won. This is unification bout, and 2 champions, and then he was successful, and it was great. It was like a Crawford and Spence. You know what I mean? You have this big unification bout, and he rose to the occasion, and I firmly agree with Pastran. Yeah, and I was going to say that he's he's a superstar, and I think he's a great champion, and he can box. He can do everything.
Well,
What do you think, Michael? I mean, in terms of where it goes from here.
Well, I'm considering the fact that both of them were they both under 20 fights, or one was at 22 fights, and
Bama's had 19 now, and Edwards has had 21 fights.
Yeah, so it seems really, really quite early in their careers, their growth stage. They're still in like heavy growth stage. They haven't had enough experiences as the pro. They obviously can get better, and they most likely will, given their attitudes and given their love of fighting. They'll get better, but I'm not sure that I can put them in that category yet, just because.
Let's talk about Bam. I mean, the winner. The premise was the greatest fighter in San Antonio history.
Well, who do we have to? Who's there? Stevie Cruz, Donald Curry,
No, he was from Fort Worth. They were from Fort Worth.
Oh, so actually San Antonio itself in the city.
Yeah.
So who was there? Like George
Jesse
Gervin
James Leha,
and,
Mike Ayala, Tony Ayala Jr.
Oh, the Ayala brothers. Yes, that's right. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Because again, with Mike fought like legendary world champions, and you're talking about guys that haven't fought that yet. So
Yeah, I always
yes,
the
they
side
have great
perspective.
potential. When you could say potential, then you could say actual greatness in terms of ability once you're on the other side of their career. But
Well, as I always say, you always say ability, and I always say accomplishments. What with your ability, that's what ultimately defines it. What you actually did, and how your I don't resume sounds like a bit
yeah,
of a
because
silly term.
but accomplishments can be like, okay, I could win the WBC title, but I won it by beating. I
No,
don't
you got to
know.
put it in. Yeah, no, you got to put it in context. Exactly that. Which is why you see when some people say that Katie Taylor is the greatest Irish fighter in history, and they mean both genders. Here's the thing: her statistics and her accomplishments are better than anybody's, but you have to put it in context of the standard and who she beat and everything else.
Yeah.
That's where we got to make that judgment in context. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Finally. Oof.
You make out like I never agree with you. Like never. It's like that ain't true. I agree with you a lot and I big you up a lot, but you ain't getting away with some of that stuff.
Let me say this just in commentary. I can't remember the guy's name, but they said that Bam was supposed to fight, or they were thinking of fighting the flyweight from Nicaragua. What's his name?
Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez.
Chocolatito. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I-
he's still around, that Chocolatito.
Oh yeah, and he won a title. He's lost and won.
Yeah. So that's a fight there. He's already beaten that Rungvisai, the guy that beat Chocolatito going back to 2017 a couple
Right.
of times. But
And
he's
you know
already
that
beat
doesn't
that
mean
guy.
anything.
See, this is the thing that's interesting because you said this Friday night, Silk. What you marvel at is a guy that can win super flyweight titles and actually go down to flyweight and be as effective. You were saying that in itself was quite awe-inspiring because you think if you've got to weigh in at 115 pounds and you can get down to 112, you think that must be in itself quite a task.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's so little to lose, right? I mean, it's not like they have like a lot of a mass that you can cut from or fat. But
Mike used to do it though. Mike boxed at featherweight and then he came back down to super bantamweight.
Yeah, I fought featherweight, I fought super bantamweight, and I fought bantamweight too, 118.
so
Yeah.
how do you do that, Mike? Like, was there a certain sacrifice, more sacrifice that you made? I find that hard to believe that you made more sacrifice because you'd always go 100%.
Well, it's funny because I was probably realistically a bantamweight, but I fought up to featherweight. You know what I mean? At 126. But I guess as I got older, like when I was with Victor Val, when I went to New York, I fought Lee Cargill at 118. That was a bantamweight fight.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
After
and
having already fought Lopez for the featherweight title.
right for 126. Yeah, and well, I fought Nicky Perez. Victor Val got upset when I won the North American Championship in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I weighed 118 pounds, and Victor told Dennis we should be fighting bantamweight instead
Yeah.
of junior feather. Because I was coming in, but then again, I was in better shape, more dedicated, watching what I ate, and I was taking better care of myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, you were an incredible fighter. I think these kids, you got to give them a little bit more time before they can get into that level, and
Yeah.
we go from there. But
well, I say Bab's already world champion, and he proved it already. And the reason I say that he's going to be a great, I know maybe I'm going ahead of myself, but um,
He's only young.
he's young, and also too, hey, you got to give Sonny Edwards. Sonny Edwards was blasting everybody. Before Sonny Edwards, I saw him in person. I was asking Ben what kind of fighter he was because he was getting great press, and and hey, he came in as a world champion, and yeah, he got blasted, but look at the competition. Look what happened. He fought, against another great champion, and I think, like Pascal was saying, I think Bam is something special. I don't think he's just a regular champion. I think he's going to be a legend.
I'm not exactly sold yet on him being great, or like his or
Potentially great.
do I pretend to know how much ability he's had? Usually that happens when like you can really tell a fighter's potential and the depth of their talent when they're tested by someone of equal or better ability. And there are fighters that have gotten away with that throughout all their careers. They've always been the A side on the
You
talent.
talk about
know
Floyd
what I mean?
Mayweather like that.
Well, I mean, if that's who you want to mention, okay.
Yeah.
So that's one
I'm
of
not.
the
I'm
guys.
not. I'm not coming at you. I'm kind of with you. I'm just saying that that's always your thing, isn't it? You say that Mayweather,
No,
if you can
I'm
criticize him, it's
saying
on that
no. I
basis.
mean, there are fighters that like, yeah. I mean, you can use Mayweather as an example. That once they always are the A side, and there's never been like an equal. He's never had that time where somebody said, well, Hearns and Leonard are both in their prime, and there's no way that there. 50% of the people feel like Leonard's going to win. 50% feel like Hearns going to
Yeah.
win. But every time,
Do you know the only time Floyd was the best in
every
underdog?
time Floyd steps into the ring, 100% of the people say Floyd's going to win.
Well, do you know the only
And it
time
isn't
he was an
because
underdog?
it isn't because of his great talent. It's because you just know that he's not going to lose to this guy.
Do
because
you know the only time he was an underdog?
No,
in
I
his whole
don't.
career. Have a guess. We both have a guess.
I
One
would
fight
say.
to get to the underdog.
Was it against the one that lost his life in the motorcycle accident?
No, not Corrales. People said it was Corrales, but I don't believe it was. There was another time he was, and you could say he wasn't the A side either. Think about
Oh, was
it.
it Castillo? Was it Castillo?
That's what I was going to say.
It's another Mexican American, more famous. Looks better in fishnets.
Oh, De La Hoya.
Hey, listen,
Oscar, there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Well,
He was a veteran.
Oscar wasn't on the upside of his career at that point, was he?
He wasn't on the downside, to be fair. So I understand why you would say that, and I think it's valid what you said. But he was the betting favourite, I believe. I will check it after the show, but I believe he was a betting favourite. And you could say he had more leverage, commercial leverage.
Well, sometimes a betting favorite only means they're going to set that's what they set the odds at to move the money. It doesn't
Absolutely.
mean it doesn't mean there's some expert in Las Vegas that knows who's going to win between the two of them, right?
But normally, ordinarily, there is a betting favourite is usually the people look at the industry fancies as well. It's you don't normally get the industry roundly against one guy who happens to be a betting favourite. That doesn't normally happen.
Well,
to be fair.
That says a lot about the boxing.
Yeah.
About us in the boxing world too,
Did you know, by the way, that you're one of Ellen K. Bromson's favourite threesomes? You're a part of that. We all are. You see that?
Speaking of which, Ellen asked me. I'm supposed to ask you a question. How many holes did it take to fill Sir Albert Hall?
Holes, not hose, yeah. Holes.
I'm sorry. I know you'd prefer the latter, but the former.
I don't know, but that is a reference. I'm sure you know that is a reference to the Beatles song "A Day in the Life."
Exactly.
And it says,
and I said, if anyone's gonna know, Ben's gonna know.
I used to be able to play that song, and obviously it starts up. I read the news today. Oh boy, 4,000 holes in Blackburn, Lancashire. I know the holes are rather small. They had to count them all. Now they know how many holes it takes to fill the Albert Hall. Listen, let me tell you something. I suspect Mike already knows this, but I'm going to tell you something because you are a little Ivy League Silk in this regard. You can only get those kind of lyrics when you're taking hallucinogenic drugs. I feel I'm preaching to the mosque with Mike. Not so sure where you're concerned. Is that fair to say, Mike? That's like
definitely. It's like when you hear a Pink Floyd song.
Yeah. You never experimented with drugs, did you, Michael Alajide?
No.
He hesitated though.
No. I was just thinking about like maybe there was some kind of like no, I haven't. I remember nothing, not marijuana, not anything.
Because me and my friend here, El Cyclone, we did the drinking and the drugging thing a little more. That kind of partying thing. It's fair to say.
I'm sure the word cyclone didn't come. That title didn't come easy. It came from a few experiences.
Yeah, well, they had the whole family, the whole Ayala family, all had their monikers and handles. There was El Torito, which was obviously Tony, the most famous and notorious member. There was El Cyclone, the most successful member. Yeah. There was El Zurdo de Oro.
El Zurdo de Oro, Sammy.
And then there was also, let me think, there's one more there to be accounted for.
Can I please?
Go on.
El cuerpo di papi.
Yeah, that was. Where did you get that from, by the way? Because that was never your ring name, but you call yourself that on Instagram.
No, yeah, I know. That was given to me by someone of Latin descent.
Yeah, and it means you're the daddy, kind of like, or what?
No, not just any old daddy, body daddy, like the daddy of your body. You know what I mean? El cuerpo di papi.
Yeah, I think most people don't even understand what that is. It just makes you harder to find on Instagram. And while I'm on it, I want to ask you: when you've got 40,000 goddamn followers on Instagram, why don't I send the reels of this show to you and you put them on there? That's the biggest audience we got.
I don't like work. It's a lot of work.
No, it's not a lot of work. All you got to do is post it. I'll do the work, like always, right?
Sure, I bring the shine. You bring the work. Okay.
Hang on, there's one other Ayala I'm missing. I've just said Mike, Tony, Sammy.
And then how about Paulie Ayala from Fort Worth?
Yeah, Paulie. Yeah, Paulie Ayala from Fort Worth, because a lot of people think Paulie Ayala, who fought Johnny Tapia, they think he's one of the Ayalas, but he's not. He's just got the same name.
No relation. He's Ayala, but no relation. He's from Fort Worth, and he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I mean, he did real good back in the day. You know, Johnny Tapia was a great fighter. Obviously, you know, he was.
A legend, yes, but he it's hard, and Ben, addiction is tough. Addiction can be it's one of the hardest opponents you fight. You just that you gotta, and you gotta change your life, and we changed it, but Johnny Tapia couldn't. You know what I mean?
He couldn't change. He couldn't escape. And this is the thing, Silk, when Iceman John Scully, who's a great guy and he's a friend of yours and mine, when he sounds off about addiction and he's a real hardliner and he's got no empathy, no sympathy, he can't relate to it. I can't discuss that with Scully. We had a bit of a chat in Atlantic City about it, which wasn't entirely fruitless. But online, I can't get into it with John because I just know he doesn't have any empathy for that kind of experience. You know what I mean? It's a
empathy is a difficult attribute to come across at any point in anything in the world. So a lot of people are very empathetic and understanding of people's issues and things that come along. But once you do, if you fall into it, like you can fall into an addiction by accident, and they don't necessarily have to be like hardline drugs or anything. It could be a behavior.
It could be anything. Gambling. It could be gambling. It could be
behavior which blights your life in some way. Yeah.
And because of that, the story. I'm preaching to the
choir. But the people don't understand an addiction is a disease and it's hereditary. My grandfather was an alcoholic. Okay, my father was a womanizer. Addiction and life, it happens, and it was passed down to our forefathers. You know me. I had a gambling problem. I was an addict. I was a complete addict. And that happens. But the thing about it is, when you realize what you got and you beat it, and they can say whatever they want to say about you, but you're not that way anymore. And that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If I were to have one addiction, it would be womanizer. I'd choose that one.
My father was
that one over all of them.
Yeah. But the thing is, someone said to me, I don't want to be crude, but somebody gave me an interesting parallel about the differences between an alcoholic and a sex addict. Because, sex addiction is a thing, and they do have fellowships. They do have groups for people trying to overcome sex addiction, okay? Now, someone said, okay, let me think about this. How is it defined when I'm a sex addict? He said, if I wake up in the morning and I want a bottle of whiskey or a can of special brew lager at 6 a.m. in the morning or 7 a.m. in the morning, then I'm an alcoholic, right? But if I wake up with an erection and I want to have sex with my significant other, that doesn't make me a sex addict, right?
No, with the significant other, see, that's the thing.
Yes,
with a significant other, that's within the boundaries of a relationship, and that's all well and good. I don't know if that, I guess it can be an addiction if your significant other is like, oh, Jesus, not again.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
Or they were saying like a sex addict, like guys that have, they buy porn, they buy,
yes,
pornography, and with kids and all kinds of crap. You know what I mean?
Well, it prevents you from normal social interactions.
Yes,
and behavioral traits and those kinds of things. I guess are the ones that make it. They stifle your life. They stifle your creativity. It stifles your happiness. all the rest of that kind of stuff. But I feel like right now we've gone way off the road of what I wanted to. What we
Go on,
all were
bring us
talking
back.
about. I wanted to come right back to Edwards again, and I wanted to
Go.
ask you guys, how do you put Edwards back together?
I think there's fights out there for him for a start, Michael. There's definitely fights out there for him, particularly if Bam moves up again now. Then Edwards would be in line for something. There's a big fight for him in this country against Galal Yafai.
But isn't that getting away from? Isn't that getting away from Edwards and what he needs himself?
Are you
Like,
talking?
because okay, so the kid moves up, but I mean, he's not any better because he moved up. It doesn't mean, in fact,
I'm not talking about him moving up. I'm saying if Bam moves up, Sonny can stay at flyweight.
No, that's what I'm saying. If Bam moves up, then okay, so that clears the division for him, and he's going to be a better fighter from his experience.
I think he'll learn from it, regardless. I think he'll make adjustments.
I think he'll make adjustments, but he has to forget what happened. You got to forget what happened.
It's impossible.
Don't forget what happened. What I mean is, okay, I got, maybe he makes changes and maybe he can come back. You know what I mean? Maybe, his style maybe comes back and asks for the rematch and now boxes him. It's hard to say maybe he had a bad night because you can't really, because they both were undefeated. You can't really cut Sonny Edwards short like that. You got to give him, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Now, if he gets beat again, because look, I know we're saying, well, maybe he didn't fight. He got blasted out. Yeah, but it doesn't mean he's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? He could have had a bad fight and come back. Look at Errol Spence and Crawford.
Yeah.
But Spencer's not rebounded from that. And I don't think he deserves. I don't think there should be a rematch, regardless of the clause. I don't think it makes any sense commercially to have a rematch. And Spence we still don't know what happened to Spence.
Yeah, but what is the difference of Errol Spence and Crawford and Bam and Sonny Edwards? Sonny Edwards, he just got caught. It was, but he was in the fight from the beginning.
He was in a fight from the beginning, but to me, with my untrained eye, I saw this exactly happening. Like the kid was just going to catch up to him because he lacked the defensive traits to keep that kid off him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I were going to say, okay, someone would say, put this kid together, put him back together, and make him seaworthy so he can go up against. He could fight this kid again or fight anyone else in the division. Because you know what's going to happen now. They saw him lose. They saw him on the canvas. Now that emboldens all the other fighters. All the other guys in that division, they feel like, okay, I see him on the canvas. I can put him on his ass. Right or wrong, they're now stronger because of it. Right? They've seen him lose. So I teach him how to move his head first. Better than he moves his feet. He moves his feet very well, but again, like we were saying earlier, at the wrong time. He needs to learn to move his head and not have a stationary target. He doesn't catch punches like this, and he doesn't slip punches. So what he does is he moves his feet and he moves in and out of range, and that's all well and good. But when you have a kid like who he fought, Edwards. His head is always going to be there because you have fighters that can punch moving forward or punch moving back or punch moving to the side or like the kid did last night. He slipped and then made him pay. And you know what I mean? So
I suspect
number one, he has to get his head movement down.
Yeah.
Give him a real defense. What he has is more smoke and mirrors, all that shucking and jiving and doing all that stuff and fainting and all. That's not defense. That'll cause your opponent to hesitate. Okay, I understand that. Hesitation is a form of defense. But when the guy does decide to let go, what do? At that point right there on a scale of 1 to 10, his defense drops to a 3 at that point.
It's interesting you say that, and I agree with this too, because one of my really good friends was out there supporting Sonny because he's very close to the Edwards family, Charlie Edwards being a world-class fighter as well. And he was saying, because Sonny looks so good, like the Nassim Hamid in his prime, but without the power on his way up, he kept saying, for my money, one of the best defensive boxers in Britain. Now, to my sort of, you called yours an untrained eye. I don't think that's a fair description of yours. So, to my sort of practiced eye,
I was being
always thought
sarcastic.
he had a lot of flair. He had a lot of flair, but I wouldn't say he was the best defensive boxer in Britain because of what you just said. Defense is more subtle and it's more textured and nuanced than people think it is. You know. So to me, what I suspect, Michael, is when you say how do you put Sonny Edwards back together again? You've got more focus on what you would do with him in the gym and that reprogramming kind of period more than whether he can fight this guy or that guy being important necessarily next.
100%. That's what they got to do first. If he wants to have like a win the title and have a reign that goes along with it, and be respected for, like, I mean, already he has all the respect that you could ask for of a fighter. He was gallant in defeat. He accepted the results. He took shots like a champ. You know what I mean? He respected himself. He respected his opponent 100% to him. Heart goes out for the loss. It's tough. The injury, that's doubly tough. But now that he's going to come back, if he's deciding to come back, he certainly has to do things that are
different. Exactly.
Yeah, got to do it different. Got to. Once you become predictable in boxing, it's hell.
That's it. Exactly. Because they get your number.
Yeah, it is hell. It's the absolute worst profession on earth, or one of the worst two anyway. Once they know what you're doing, once they know what you're capable of, once they understand you, once they get your timing down, they get a beat on you, it's over. And if you don't have somebody always thinking about that and always thinking about, listen, this has got to change because they've seen this already.
Every time.
When you go in to train for a fight, you're in camp for 6 months. You best believe that their trainer, if the trainer is worth their salt, they've looked at you and they've seen all the habits and your ticks and your reflexes and all the rest of that kind of stuff, and they're working specifically on those things. That's it.
Every time you talk this way, I ask you the same question: why don't you train professional fighters in a really orchestrated way?
I've never really been more asked or sought after, but I've never really been out that way either.
Because you should be doing it. I mean, Mike does it. Mike brings him for the amateurs, but he's in for the long haul, I'm sure, when he gets a kid who wants to turn over and is invested in. So Silk, I get the fact it's more immediately lucrative and reliable to do the PTs and the personal training, and you found your way of doing it. You know, you tend to have some delectable clients. I know that. But why don't you train fighters? Because I think you're needed in the game. I don't know if there's going to be an element of sacrifice involved in it, but that's the question I ask you.
Well, there is always a sacrifice, is right, Mike? Always involved. As a trainer, there's sacrifice because, I mean, even just the emotional sacrifice is number one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the emotional sacrifice is time. You got to take time. And then the fighter doesn't want to run. It really affects the trainer too. It's that easy. Yeah. And I respect Michael's opinion. I mean, he knows what, and he's correct, but it takes. But there's other factors. As the fighter, you know what I mean? Is you gonna live up to it? Because we're talking about certain amount of fighters, but to make it to the top, but it's an ongoing process.
It's a rocky road, yeah, and you can invest a lot of time in a kid just to be disappointed. Because I know I saw the work you did with the kid that you were training when I was over there, Nate. And I saw the amount of love and time and effort that went into that process and goes into it.
And it was so disappointing because really he still goes to the gym and he works out, but he didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? He wasn't into it, and the talent. You see the talent, but he was just not. He just didn't want to box, and so and I'm working with other fighters that have that, but they don't have his talent. But they do, they work, and they got young kids coming up. But it's hard.
When it always happens 10 years from now when they can't do it anymore, and they say, I wish I would have. They come back to you and they start off every sentence with I wish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I wish you would have made me. I wish I would have I should have definitely. And it's just, I'm old enough, like I'm 60 now. I've heard it a number of times in a number of different aspects from a number of different people, and it's kind of frustrating. I've worked with some guys, you know what I mean, like not necessarily peripherally, but I very intensely in short periods. And I'm the kind of individual that, like, I'm a hardliner. I want it a certain way because I know that if you do it that way, it will bring you success.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there's a lot of people don't like the discomfort that comes along with being a fighter, and the discomfort not of getting hit, because everything is about not getting hit from day one. And but the pressure of doing things to make sure a guy doesn't get hit sometimes is harder than, you know, a guy getting hit. I'll give you an example. Like in a fight, once you get tired, right? You're okay. Like it's almost like you're okay with getting hit. You'd rather get hit than move.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like
And that happened to Sonny. I think that happened to Sonny at one point, by the way.
Yeah, you do this thing in your mind, just like, oh, I just can't move anymore. So I'm gonna fatigue messes up everything. Once fatigue sets in, you get tired. Anything.
What do you make of what Gil Clancy said during the Hagler-Leonard fight when he reckoned Ray was flagging a bit in the mid rounds? He said, "You know, Tim, when you get tired, you're a little bit of puncher too because you're flat-footed." I wasn't sure about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that myself.
Mike?
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, a lot of times what you do, you surrender. You surrender, you know, your defensive skills. You surrender. You say, you know what? It's, you put the blade in your mouth and says, to the death. You know what I mean? Because you're already tired. You're already, exhausted.
Yeah.
And you're really, you know what I mean? It's what you call a last stand.
Yeah.
Abid Ali, by the way, says it's great to see Mike on the show. I've watched his classic with Danny Lopez so many times. So you're never going to stop getting reminded at that fight, Mike. You're never going to stop getting congratulated for your part in that fight, I don't think.
No, thank you. Now, but it's like Michael just said. I wish I wouldn't have. I would have taken it more seriously. I would have been world champion. But what can you say? Well, I mean, it's happened. You know what I mean? And but that's the way it is.
Look at your upbringing, Mike. I know your upbringing pretty well now. I'm privileged to have gone on that journey with you. I heard a lot about your story, obviously. And when you look at your upbringing and how kind of crazy it was, you can't be blamed for not fulfilling your brilliant potential. I think it's a wonder that you achieved as much as you did. Is it fair to say,
Mike, and also.
Yes.
So
go ahead, Michael.
I wanted to ask you a question on top of that as well, but maybe I should let you answer that because it's too much. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Go on. Yeah, that's your question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what if you had one regret, if one thing could have changed your destiny that you would have gotten to and won your world title, what would you have changed? What do you think was a missing link that stopped you from hitting that?
Drug addiction.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I mean? If I would have see the ingredient, Bam is clean cut. All the don't ever start doing any clean cut. I like the upbringing. It's knowing to say no. You got to say no.
Yeah.
That's make it simple, nice.
And the
simple.
wildest thing is knowing how to say no. Where does that come from? That comes from like your parents. Like your parents have to teach you. Like what happens with a lot of. I had an authoritarian parent.
Both my parents.
What happens with an authoritarian parent is they don't teach you how to say no. They teach you how to say yes. And
exactly.
Anything and everything. Anyone with authority, anybody with that, they're teaching you to say yes. Authoritarian parents, like you can grab their behavioral traits and you can afterwards and you can be the same kind of authoritarian, but they're definitely hurting your potential and anything else because they're not empowering you. They're
you
almost
end up hiding stuff
you.
from them that doesn't go with their regime, I guess.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, it's hard being a parent, and sometimes you're a disciplinarian like my father was and stuff, but there was no compassion. A lot of times, you're going to make mistakes, and you got to have compassion. Teach them, and but that's the way it is. You know what I mean? It happened, and my parents. I'm not going to sit here and blame my parents.
Yeah.
They did the best they could, and that's
It's
the
a
way
process.
it is.
It's a
You know what I mean?
process.
It's a
It's an
process. There's a
evolution.
process, and no one's perfect. Look, none of my kids did drugs, but then again, you know what I mean? I wasn't a perfect parent, and you know, it's hard. It's hard to uh, to say, you know, what's a good parent and what's a bad parent. And the thing is that, you know what I mean? You know, you just gotta just do the right thing. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can go deeper, but I won't.
That's
Huh?
cool. Yeah, you're learning, Silk. You're learning because yeah, I think there's you know what
You
some of
have
these
any
guys.
children, Silk?
Yes, I have two boys.
Two boys. How old are they?
Yeah. And they are one's 27 and he's a captain in the Marines, actually, Marines ground.
Oh well, you did great. You're doing good.
Yeah, they're doing good, and my younger one is in physical therapy. He graduated Brooklyn College, and so he's
Oh yeah, well, right there in Brooklyn, stuff. They're good kids, good parenting. They never
yeah,
did. You know, that's awesome. My hats off to them. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That's
They've
great.
done a good job. They've done most of it's because of their mom, but I can get a little bit of it. I can get a
No,
little.
you don't. No, you got to give them a lot of credit. Give you a lot of credit. Awesome,
Yeah.
No, thanks.
awesome job.
But you know how that works. It's kind of like if you're conscious of what's happened in your relationships with your parents, then you're a little bit more conscious and a little bit more ahead of it when you comes to your children. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how
Right.
it generationally gets better. You just continue to keep making steps, you know, towards getting better. I mean, it's hard to be conscious of something like that, but if you know what your agita is, if you know what eats away at you and what stops you from sleeping or causes certain behavioral traits that you don't like in yourself, then it's easier to kind of like turn to help you to be there for your kids. I guess basically is putting them first is what where it counts.
Yeah.
If you put them first and not yourself, it's not about your emotions or how you're feeling
Which
now.
which obviously that was the big thing I suspect when you were growing up. Well, both of you, but you, Mike, with your father, it was about what he wanted you to achieve on his behalf for his legacy. Who we got there? Who we got there in the background? Laura.
Man, it's Laura and her mom. They're they said we're not gonna have dinner.
Okay, we got to let the cyclone go, Mike, because
What dinner? What are you having for dinner?
Texas barbecue.
Oh yeah, we're making short ribs with short
Man.
ribs with the green beans and stuff and all that. Barbecue. We got them in the oven, getting ready for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who? Dallas. They don't. Do they play tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cowboys. They're playing. What is it? I tell you right now. Hold on. They're playing. Yeah, Buffalo. They're playing in Buffalo,
Oh,
New
that's
York.
right. Oh, that's the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
No, no,
Okay.
no. 3:25. They're playing now. The game is on now.
Okay. So,
Oh shoot. Sorry about
okay.
that.
So
All
let
right,
me
No, no,
wrap
well,
it.
it's okay. No, it's all right. No, no, it's
Let me
cool.
wrap it for those
It's
reasons.
cool.
Listen, by the way, tell Laura I missed that cinnamon coffee. I missed waking up in SA
did you
and having
put?
that first
Ben,
cinnamon
I think
coffee
you
of the
just
day.
turned some music on.
Say what?
Did you just turn some music on?
No, you just interrupted me again, though. If that's any good.
Oh,
You're talking about the Cinnabon coffee.
Yeah, I was trying to talk about cinnamon coffee. You go, what kind of thing is it when you can't even talk about cinnamon
Well, it's a
coffee
brand.
on a boxing
Well, you can
podcast?
buy it. You can buy it. Okay, you've been to the airport. You know the Cinnabon, the Cinnabon pretzels or
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Cinnabon.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cinnabon. Yeah, yeah. Well, they make a coffee, Cinnabon
cool.
coffee.
I look for. I got to get that Korean tea too. All right, Silk. But listen, Mike, it's always a pleasure to see you. It's brilliant to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I bid you a good afternoon with your folks. I hope the Cowboys win. And
That was a great honor.
Don't
Always been a
forget, go
pleasure.
Raiders. Go Raiders.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this show. It appears you did, looking at the viewership and the comments. Please subscribe to Sugar Silk and Stretch on YouTube if you haven't done already. You can like the videos if you want. I haven't figured out what advantage there is to us in you liking them yet. I know we want subscribers. I know we want views. Be lucky. Keep punching.
Thank you for having me.